There comes a moment in every man's life when the woman in front of him is no longer just a partner, a lover, or a mystery to be solved. She becomes the mirror. Not a gentle one, but the kind forged in fire, reflecting not who you think you are, but everything you've been avoiding. She doesn't need to raise her voice or even speak. A glance, a silence, a moment of distance, and suddenly you're no longer sure of your own worth. Carl Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But what he didn't say outright, what hides in the shadows of that insight, is that transformation is often brutal. Women test the soul of men not out of malice, but out of nature. Her instinct is ancient. She is not searching for perfection. She is searching for the man who does not collapse in the face of emotional ambiguity. She doesn't want answers, she wants presence. She doesn't want control, she wants containment. And yet so many men fail because they do not understand the game being played is not a game at all. It's a crucible. You've been taught to chase, to please, to prove. But Jung would say that every external test you face is a projection of an inner war between your mask and your essence, between your boyhood wounds and your adult sovereignty. This is not about her. It's about you. When she withholds affection, when she challenges your beliefs, when she disappears into her silence, it is not cruelty. It is a summons, a psychological initiation, a feminine riddle carved into your nervous system. And only the man who stops trying to solve her and instead confronts himself can emerge whole. This is the Jungian trial most men are too afraid to name, that women in their chaos, their emotion, their mystery are the gatekeepers of your individuation. The soul doesn't evolve through comfort. It evolves through friction, through the feminine shadow that cuts through your ego and forces you to reckon with who you truly are beneath the persona. Welcome to the test you were never prepared for, and the only one that matters. Carl Jung introduced a concept that still terrifies most men today, not because it's abstract, but because it's too close to the truth: the anima. In Jungian psychology, the anima is the unconscious feminine within every man. She is not your mother, not your girlfriend, not your crush. She is you. The part of you that you've buried under masculinity, stoicism, performance, and pride. And here's the truth few dare to face. Every time a woman triggers you, destabilizes you, entrances you. She is speaking to your anima. This is not romance. This is psychological warfare. The anima doesn't show herself in sweetness. She shows herself in projection. You don't just fall in love with a woman. You see your soul in her, distorted and magnified. That's why you become obsessed. That's why you can't let go. That's why she gets under your skin in ways logic can't touch. She awakens your inner feminine not to comfort you, but to confront you. And if you're not ready, it will tear you apart. Jung said, the encounter with the shadow is the apprentice piece in the individual's development. That with the anima is the masterpiece. Translation: facing your inner darkness is just the beginning. Surviving the feminine, her moods, her withdrawals, her riddles, is the real trial. Because she's not there to validate your masculinity. She's there to test it. When she seems unpredictable, what she's really doing is shaking the foundations of your self-concept. When she seems overly emotional, she's reflecting your own emotional illiteracy. When she pulls away without warning, she's echoing the parts of your psyche you've disowned. She is not playing a game. She is performing an initiation, unconsciously or not, and only the man who does not flinch survives it. And what do most men do? They explain, they plead, they try to fix. They try to be the good guy, the understanding boyfriend, the emotionally intelligent man, all in a desperate attempt to win her back. But what they fail to grasp is that the moment you try to manage her chaos, you betray your own center. The anima is not meant to be managed. She is meant to be integrated. This is where the masculine soul is truly forged, not in conquest, but in containment, not in control, but in presence. When you stop reacting to her emotional storms, when you stop begging for her clarity, when you stop searching for a script and instead stand still in the storm, that is when she feels you. That is when she respects you. That is when the anima bows. You don't pass her test by being right. You pass by being real. It's no coincidence that the woman who tests you the most is often the one you can't forget. She cracks something open in you, something primal, something sacred, something terrifying. But the real fear isn't about her. The fear is about what she revealed, that your soul is unfinished, that your masculinity is still reactive, that your strength is still conditional. She didn't destroy you. She showed you. Jung warned that without integration, the anima becomes a seductress, a chaotic force that manipulates you through fantasy, projection, and longing. That's why weak men either worship women or resent them. They haven't met their anima, they've been possessed by her. But strong men, they hold the tension. They don't escape into blame or idealization, they look inward. They transmute the feminine chaos into masculine clarity. And here's the paradox. The more grounded you become in yourself, the less you need her approval, and the more she respects your presence. The less you chase, the more magnetic you become. The less you speak, the more she listens. Because in that stillness, in that containment, she sees something rare, a man who isn't ruled by her, but who also doesn't fear her. That is what Jung meant by individuation. It's not becoming emotionless, it's becoming whole. And a woman, in all her complexity, is the fire that forges that wholeness, if you have the courage to endure her flame. This isn't about understanding women. It's about understanding what they awaken in you. Let's destroy a comforting illusion. Most of what you call love is not love, it's projection. It's your psyche reaching for completion, wholeness, validation. It's not her that you're obsessed with, it's the feeling of finally being seen, finally being touched in the places you've long kept hidden. Carl Jung said it plainly. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But transformation can be excruciating, especially when you mistake it for romance. What really happens when you fall for a woman too fast, too deep, too hard? You're not falling for her, not really. You're falling into the archetype she activates within you. The idealized feminine, the savior, the muse. This is the anima projected outward, wrapped in the body and voice of someone who has no idea the power she holds over you. And she doesn't even have to try. The more she withholds, the more mysterious she is. The more your psyche fills in the blanks with longing, fantasy, memory. You chase her not because of what she is, but because of what she awakens. This is not connection. This is compulsion. You don't love her. You love what her silence says about your inadequacy. You love how her distance amplifies your fear of abandonment. You love how her beauty reminds you of what you were told you didn't deserve. You love the pain because it's familiar. It's home. Jung would call this the inflation of the ego by the unconscious. You're so flooded by what she represents that you lose the capacity to see her as a real person. She becomes your mirror. And if your mirror is cracked, what do you see? Fragmented love, unrealistic expectations, wounds dressed up as desire. This is why obsession feels both divine and destructive, because it is. You are not meeting her. You are meeting your own unconscious, and she can feel it. When a woman senses she is not being seen, but being projected upon, she withdraws. Not always physically, but emotionally, spiritually, sexually. And that withdrawal triggers the collapse of your imagined wholeness. The thing you thought would complete you now exposes your fracture, and you panic. You text too much. You try to make her understand. You get angry at her silence. But the truth is, you're not chasing her. You're chasing your lost self. This is the soul's trap. We seek externally what we haven't integrated internally. Jung knew this. The anima isn't here to comfort you. She's here to disrupt you, to force you to grow up, to stop blaming women for your instability, and instead face the terrifying truth. You gave her the power she never asked for. You turned her into your salvation. And now, the very thing you worshipped is destroying you, but it's not her fault. It's yours because you never did the work. You never faced your own loneliness. You never learned to sit with your own silence. You mistook attention for love, chaos for passion, anxiety for depth, and now you're drowning in a sea you created. The only way out is through. You must reclaim your projections, not by forcing her to change, but by pulling back every ounce of meaning you've placed on her shoulders. She is not your mother. She is not your therapist. She is not your redemption. She is a woman. And until you see her as such, flawed, real, autonomous, you will never escape the cycle of obsession. The deeper truth is this: she's not testing you. Life is testing you through her. Can you hold your ground when the fantasy collapses? Can you love without needing to possess? Can you look in the mirror and see your own shadow instead of blaming? Her reflection, that's the alchemy of the anima. What begins as desire ends as transformation. The moment you stop needing her to heal you, she becomes free. And so do you. Carl Jung didn't just speak of integration. He spoke of initiation, and that's what most modern men miss. Every woman you truly fall for is in a romantic chapter. She's an initiation, right? Her presence challenges you, shakes your ego, and breaks the illusions you've built about strength, power, control. She doesn't do this to hurt you. She does it because she is the gatekeeper. A man who has not passed through the fire of the feminine trial is not a man. He is a boy trapped in the armor of performance, obsessed with dominance but terrified of intimacy. The truth? Women, especially those you cannot control, are sent by life to test your integrity. Jung called the anima not just a muse or a projection, but the soul itself in feminine form. She arrives disguised as desire, but she is there to provoke evolution, to lure the unconscious into the light, to force you to confront everything you've buried: your shame, your cowardice, your neediness, your false masculinity. So when she criticizes you, when she withdraws from you, when she seduces you only to challenge your center, she's not trying to destroy you. She's testing to see if there's anything real in you to build from. And that's what weak men don't understand. They collapse, they react, they beg for affection. They become aggressive when denied approval. They either try to dominate her or dissolve in her, but both are forms of submission to the unresolved boy within. That boy cannot love. He can only possess, but for the man who has begun to integrate ... Her tests become sacred because her resistance is not rejection. It's initiation. She asks, can you hold your own center when I am unpredictable? Will you stand in your truth when I withdraw mine? Will you collapse into panic or rise into presence? This is the battlefield Jung hinted at. The fight is not against her, it's within you. The woman who stirs your soul is not here to serve you. She is here to mirror your limits. And if you're strong enough to look into that mirror, really look, you will see all the ways you've been performing masculinity instead of embodying it. This is why the immature man either idolizes or demonizes women. He calls them angels or monsters, but the integrated man, he knows better. He sees the divine in the darkness, and he remains unmoved, because he doesn't need to control her. He needs only to know himself. A woman can love you, she can admire you, but she will never follow a man who isn't sovereign, a man whose identity is reactive, not rooted. And here's the brittle paradox. To pass the trial, you must not seek to pass it. You must stop performing, stop needing to be the man, stop trying to earn her approval, and start becoming the presence that doesn't flinch in the face of her chaos. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That journey is painful, because who you are beneath the masks might not be enough ... yet, and that's the point. The Anima, the woman who tests you, is not here to crown you. She is here to strip you, to burn the illusions, to destroy the boy, so that the man can rise." Some men never recover from this trial. They retreat into bitterness, misogyny, isolation. They become shadows, loud, reactive, hollow. But the few who choose to face themselves ... they are reborn. This isn't about game or tactics or charm. This is about soul architecture, about forging a masculine presence that cannot be seduced or shaken. A man who walks through the flames of rejection, of projection, of chaos, and comes out cleaner, calmer, sovereign. She doesn't want a puppet. She doesn't want a savior. She wants a mirror strong enough to hold her reflection without breaking. And if you are not that, you will fail the test. There comes a moment, always, when a woman stops playing along. She stops nodding to your certainties, stops flattering your fragile confidence, stops rewarding your performative strength, and instead ... she goes quiet. Or she turns cold. Or she becomes distant, contradictory, elusive. This is not her betrayal. It is her mirror. Jung believed that every man projects his soul onto the woman he desires. Not her body, not her personality, but his own unconscious anima. That means what you see in her isn't just her, it's you, dressed in the mystery of the feminine. She's not testing you for sport. She's reflecting back the parts of you you've refused to integrate. When she withdraws affection, your unhealed mother wound screams. When she challenges your opinion, your insecurity shakes. When she flirts with ambiguity, your ego begs for certainty. In these moments, the boy inside you wants answers, wants control, but the soul senses something deeper. This isn't a lover's rejection, it's alchemical fire. You are being invited into the albedo, the whitening stage of the alchemical process, where illusions are burned, where the false gold is separated from the real. Most men flee. They label her toxic, crazy, manipulative, because it's easier to name the fire than to walk through it. But the rare man, the initiated man, stays still. He lets the silence speak. He studies the storm instead of trying to stop it. He doesn't react because he understands what's happening. This is not war. This is alchemy. She has become a sacred flame, a feminine crucible, meant to transmute your shallow certainty into embodied sovereignty. She's not asking for perfection. She's demanding truth. The truth of your shadow, your softness, your inner contradictions. The raw material of transformation. You think love is about pleasure and passion. That love, as Jung knew, is often a psychic confrontation. Because to truly love a woman is to surrender to her unknowability and to let that surrender make you more of a man, not less. This is why weak men fear powerful women. Why they crave submission disguised as sweetness. Because they don't want to be seen. They want reinforcement, not reflection. But the woman who tests your soul is offering something rare, the opportunity to become whole. She may break your pride, yes, but only because it was hollow. She may shake your identity, but only because it was borrowed. This is the dark romance of individuation. She shows you your limits, not out of cruelty, but because she believes you can transcend them. But you must not flinch. You must not punish her for the light she shines on your darkness. You must not ask her to become smaller so you can feel bigger. You must not demand comfort when what is needed is clarity. This is where the anima becomes your guide, not by pleasing you, but by provoking you. She becomes mythic, the siren who calls not to lure you to death, but to awaken the part of you still asleep, still clinging to masks of strength instead of its essence. In the myth of Psyche and Eros, love dies the moment Psyche lights the lamp to look at Eros' face. Why? Because to try to know the mystery too soon is to kill the erotic tension that transforms. That's the lesson. Don't rush to control what must initiate you. Let her mystery deepen you. Let her silence strengthen you. Let her tests refine you. Let the love that feels like chaos reveal your deepest order. This is not a game, it is a path. And if you take it seriously, if you honor the woman as the mirror of your own unconscious, you will stop asking, why is she doing this to me? And start asking, what in me still fears being seen? And then maybe, just maybe, you'll stop trying to win her and start becoming the man who no longer needs to. There's a moment, quiet, unannounced, when you realize she was never just a woman, she was a threshold. Not a destination to be conquered, but a gate you were meant to walk through if you were willing to lose who you thought you were. This is the moment Jung feared for those who remained uninitiated. The moment when the psyche resists its own expansion, when the ego rebels against the very force that could set it free. And that force often comes wrapped in soft skin, sharp intuition, and the devastating gaze of a woman who sees straight through you. You thought you were chasing her, but really you were being summoned by your own unconscious to face the part of yourself that only she could unlock. Because the feminine is not always nurturing. Sometimes it's destructive, not out of malice, but necessity. In many ancient traditions, the feminine appears as the dark goddess, Kali, Hecate, Lilith, the one who tears away illusions. And in the modern psyche, this archetype lives on in the woman who won't let you hide, the woman who calls you out, who breaks your rhythms, who interrupts your performances with silence. And when she does, the boy in you wants to punish her for it. He calls her unstable, too much, too emotional. But the man in you, if he's awake, realizes she is doing what no one else ever dared, challenging your myth of self. Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. And this is the pain he meant. Not the pain of being unloved, but the pain of facing yourself in the presence of someone who no longer buys your story. Her intuition becomes your trial. Her detachment, your confrontation with attachment. Her refusal to be tamed, the test of your own inner chaos. You were never meant to dominate her. You were meant to transform in front of her, and that's why it hurts. That's why it feels like rejection. Because something in you must die. The ego, the persona, the image, before something truer can emerge. But most men run, they find easier women. Gentler mirrors, they choose adoration over transformation, safety over truth, performance over power. But then they grow old wondering why they feel empty, why no woman ever understood them, why their life was full of connection but void of depth. Because the truth is, no one else can walk you through that gate. Not your therapist, not your friends, not your mother. Only she can, the woman who reflects your soul, not your ego. And you'll know her when she appears, not because it will feel easy, but because it will feel devastatingly real. She will disrupt your patterns. She will confuse your logic. She will awaken your fears. And if you stay, if you breathe through the discomfort, if you resist the urge to blame or flee, you will find something uncheckable behind her tests. Not her validation, not her submission, but your own sovereignty. Because that's what she was guarding all along, not herself. But you, the you buried beneath noise and performance, beneath trauma and false confidence, she was never asking for perfection. She was calling forth integration. You mistook her fire for cruelty, but it was the fire of initiation. Now you stand at the gate, not begging her to open it, but ready to walk through on your own terms, because you see now, she was not an obstacle. She was your reflection, sharpened by love, demanding your emergence, not for her, for you. And through her, you've remembered the soul of a man isn't tested by how he wins a woman. It's revealed by how he rises when she no longer plays small to protect his illusion. This is the moment of truth. Will you collapse into resentment and call it masculinity? Or will you thank her, in silence, in presence, in depth, for showing you the man you were too afraid to become? She didn't destroy you. She revealed you. The man you thought you were, with his routines, his pride, his calculated detachment, is gone. And in his place, something still emerging, raw and unstable, but real. This is not about masculinity as dominance. This is masculinity as integrity, born not from control, but from confrontation. Carl Jung warned, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But few men realize that such terror often arrives in the form of a woman who sees you, not who you pretend to be, not who you hope to become, but who you are when the masks fall. And now, in the aftermath of her silence, her distance, her truth, you begin to understand she wasn't testing you to see if you were worthy of her. She was testing to see if you were worthy of yourself. Every gaze that pierced your ego, every withdrawal that exposed your dependency, every mirror she held to your chaos, it was all sacred. You thought the path was about getting her, about winning, seducing, impressing. But that was never the real journey. The real journey was always inward, and she was the guide. Not with words, but with presence. Not with comfort, but with challenge. She became the mirror in which your fragmented self could no longer hide. And what you saw terrified you, the insecurity, the hunger, the boy screaming for validation. But now you do not flinch. Now you face it, because this is the birth of the sovereign masculine, not the loud, posturing performance of power, but the quiet embodiment of presence. She no longer holds power over you, not because she has changed, but because you have. Her silence no longer feels like abandonment. It feels like freedom. You don't seek to control her. You respect her. Because now you understand true masculinity is not forged in conquest, but in the ability to hold tension, to endure ambiguity, to remain present in the storm. You carry her tests not as wounds, but as initiations. Each scar is sacred. Each unanswered question, a lesson in stillness. Each lost battle, a step toward inner sovereignty. Freud once suggested that men fear women because they fear their own inadequacy. But you no longer run from that fear. You've integrated it. The unconscious has surfaced. The shadow has spoken. And instead of denying it, you now walk with it. This is the Jungian integration. The anima is no longer at war with the anima, but dancing with her, in power, in silence, and wholeness. Now, you don't need her to make you feel strong. You are strong. You don't need her to reflect your worth. You know your worth. You don't need her to play small so you can feel big. You stand side by side, not in opposition, but in resonance. The boy needed her. The man honors her because he honors himself. So what now? You move forward, not as a man chasing approval, but as a man who has passed through the flame and emerged, not unscathed, but undeniable. No longer a seeker, no longer a performer, but a witness to your own becoming. She tested the soul of a man. And now, you have one, and it is no longer afraid to burn. You've walked through fire. You faced the silence, the tests, the shadows. Now it's time to rise, not as a man desperate for validation, but as a sovereign being who commands his own presence. If this truth stirred something deep inside, don't let it fade in the noise of distraction. Subscribe to join the brotherhood of men awakening to their real power, calm, unshakable, and rooted in self-mastery. Like, share, and comment below. I am the fire that fear cannot burn. Together, we break the chains of dependency, we reject the lies of weakness, and we build a generation of men who walk with silent strength and fierce clarity. This is not just philosophy, this is a revolution of the soul. Welcome to you, Philosophizing. Desire in the shadows, thought in the flesh.